Hello all, welcome to another session on Power Virtual Agents. In this session, we will see how we can make use of Markdown language to create a table and display the data within the chatbot. Now, by default, out of the box, we don't have an option to display a table within the chatbot. So we will be using Power Automate to create the Markdown for a table and build a table structure and share that data back to Power Virtual Agents and display that in the chatbot. Now, the business use case that we will be using here as part of the requirement is that we have SharePoint where we have using the library to host a good number of documents. And we have, like, say, for instance, hundreds of documents stored in that library. We will be creating a chatbot where the users can actually type in the name of the document that they want to search for, and the chatbot will invoke a Power Automate, which will search for the document by the name the user has inputted in the chatbot and retrieve the data and show that as a table within the chatbot. And at the same time, it will also have a link to the corresponding document, and the entire table and the links to that document will be created as a markdown and shown within the chatbot. Now let's get ahead to creating the chatbot, for which we will initialize the creation of a new bot, and we will name it as document search bot and click on create, which will provision the bot for us. Now once the bot has been created, we will be creating adding trigger phrases which will help in defining the words and phrases that will start the conversation with the bot. And we will also create few actions which will help us capture the data that the user want to search for, or the document the user want to search for, and we will pass on this particular search keyword to the Power Automate that we are going to create. So the bot is still being created. Let's take a look at the document library where we have hosted a good number of invoices for different months, you can see. So what we will be trying to do is we will be trying to search for one of these invoices, or in fact, we will see what we are going to get if we search for the word invoice. And if you want to have a specific invoice from a certain month, you can actually specify the month along with the invoice keyword to get the specific invoice for that month as well. Now we will see how this works in action, but now let's go ahead and see if the bot has been created. So we can see the bot has been provisioned. Let's create a topic and add the search or the trigger keywords, which will initiate the bot conversation. Since we are trying to search for a document, we will add trigger phrases that is in line with searching for a document, like retrieve document, search for a document, etc. And the trigger words has been added to the topic now. And we will also add a message welcoming the user to the document searcher bot. Followed by that, we will add a question so as to get the input from the user regarding the name of the document that you is searching for. And instead of multiple choice, we will just take the entire user response and store that in a variable with the variable name as the document name. And now we need to actually call a Power Automate and pass this document name so that we can use Power Automate to search for this particular document within SharePoint. So as to do that, let's call an action and click on create a flow, which will open up the Power Automate window in the new tab. And in that, we will add a new input variable so that it can accept the document keyword from Power Virtual Agent. We will add a text variable here. And now we will also initialize a variable that can be used to hold the markdown that we are going to create. So we will name the variable as markdown, set it to string. To add a table, we use 3 or more hyphens to create each column's header and use pipes to separate each column. To add the rows, we will again use pipe as a separator as each cell as shown in the syntax, as we can see here. So here the header is defined using the syntax where the header as name and department are defined with pipes with the names in between the pipes, and we are having the dashes within the pipes which defines or completes the header section. Followed by that, if you want to add cells or rows to this table, we will again use pipes as a separator and inside each separator, between the separators, we will add the cell values which forms the cells or the rows for that particular table. Now we will see how we are going to append this data later down the line in the Power Automate. But for now, let's go ahead and add a action get files properties so that we can search the SharePoint library for the document keyword and retrieve the properties. We will specify the site name, the library name as well. And we need to actually get a subset of the data, not the entire file properties of the entire files within that document library, because we just want to get the files or the properties of the files that matches the document name that the user has inputted in the Power Virtual Agent. To do that, we will go and expand the advanced options, and we will add to the filter query a substring option so that we will just check the, so we have an input variable search text here. We will use the substring function to search for that particular user input keyword within the file name of the files within the invoices library. So the variable search text is present here. It contains the user input keyword of the document name. Now we will search for this document name within the entire file titles. So that way we have set up the action to search for the files which matches the document name inputted by the user, and it will return the properties of all those files. Now the next thing to do is we will add and apply to each action so that we can loop through the entire file properties that has been returned from the previous action. So if say for instance, if we are searching for invoices, we did see that there are multiple files with the name invoices, so it will return multiple files properties. So to do that, we will add and apply to each, and we will select the values from the dynamic property so that it loops through the return values from the previous get file properties action. Now we will also add an append to string variable step, and we will have the previous variable added here. Now ensure that we add a new line so that every time the string is appended to the variable, this new line acts as a delimiter, which helps in maintaining the syntax for the table markdown. So now once we have the new line added, next step is to add data to the rows, for which we will add a pipe. Followed by that, we will add the document name which is present in the name name property. So we'll just search for name here and add that. Followed by that, we'll add another pipe. Now we need to add the link as well to this particular file. Now we did see that the syntax for link follows the pattern. The link display text will be enclosed within a square bracket. Followed by that, the link to the actual document will be mentioned within the parenthesis. So we'll just copy the syntax and make the updates here. So we'll just remove and add the, we'll add link as the text that will be shown in the cell, and the corresponding actual link will be the link to item actually for this particular document, which we can get from the dynamic content. We'll just search for link to item and we'll add it. So this way we will have the row containing the document name followed by the link to that document, which we have created using the Markdown language. And in addition to that, the entire structure will actually get appended to the table that we are actually creating using Markdown. Now the last step to do is we need to return back this data as a variable to the Power Virtual Agent. So we will just add as where output and add the variable data, so that once the Power Automate is being called from Power Virtual Agent, the entire Markdown that we have created here will be returned back to Power Virtual Agents. Now we'll just rename the flow as document searcher flow and save it so that we can refer this from Power Virtual Agents. So the flow is saved. Now let's head back to Power Virtual Agents and try to call the flow it should ideally list the flow that we have created recently. And we can see the document search flow listed here, and we will just pass on the document name which the user has inputted to the flow. And this way it completes the calling of the flow, and once the document name has been passed to the flow, it searches for the document within the flow logic, and it returns back the data in the where output, which should be ideally a markdown of table and links to that document. So we need to display that to the end user, for which we will add a show message and add in the variable where output, which contains the details of the document that the user has searched for. So now let's go ahead and save the topic so that we can test out the functionality directly using the test your bot feature. So I will just add the trigger keyword search so that it will actually provide a welcome message followed by the name of the document that we are searching for. I'll just add in the generic term invoice, and we will see how the flow is being triggered and the data is being returned. Now, as you can see, the entire data which matches the invoice keyword or the files that has the name invoice has been returned as a table. And you can also see the link for which for the corresponding document has been added to the subsequent column, which on clicking on which it will open up the corresponding document in the nearby tab. So this way we can see, like, though there is no border, it's actually showing a tabular structure of the documents as well as the links to that particular document, which is being created using Markdown language and shown within the chatbot. So this is by default, we don't have this feature available in Power Virtual Agents to create markdowns or have a tabular structure created within the chatbot. So that is why we are actually using Power Automate to create our markdown syntax and use the data that has been retrieved using flow, has been converted into a markdown, and has been sent back from Power Automate to the Power Virtual Engine to be displayed as a table within chatbot. Now we can expand the functionality of using markdown. Say for instance, if you want to display an image, a video, or even adaptive cards, we can still use the same markdown language to actually expand the functionality and use them in the chatbot. Now we'll come up with more examples of how to use markdown languages, as well as how to use them in practical use cases on a day-to-day basis, and how to expand the Power Virtual Agent chatbot functionalities in the upcoming videos. So see you soon in another video.